one thing here, Jamie. So
Mhm.
Jolene, fantastic, and completely appreciate you sharing your wins. One, because sometimes that's not easy for people, right? It's not something that we're all used to, like being on camera in front of a group of people, and really our health is a really vulnerable point for all of us because of the impact that it does have on our lives, right? So you think about what you just described in terms of your craft room, that's an area that's a hobby, that's a passion of yours that you've had, and now it's just lighting up again as a result of some clarity that you've had with your energy, your focus, your intent or motivation because your health is improving, right? But I just want to make note here because I've seen this before where even though it's not easy, and this is to encourage others, and this is not to say, oh, all we can talk about is the bed of roses and all the things that are great happening in our community. But in reality, understand that you are very much part of the healing process of every single person going through this. And so when you share your progress, that may not have been the case maybe just a few short weeks ago, but now look at where you're at, right? And so it's just a reminder to say, hey, this process, it's not a miracle moment that you're looking for, although we have miracle moments that do happen, but those miracle moments really happen as a result of consistent deposits over time. So if you're at a place where you're not seeing what Jolene's seeing quite yet, it does not mean it's not coming because we see it time and time and time again, right? And then the other aspect of sharing is this is another thing that I've seen is that there could be somebody struggling in this group sitting here today and or when you share in the community, right? And one of the most powerful posts, and it's happened since then, but this is one of the first times when we had the idea of having an open community, open door policy to the practitioners and expertise that you all deserve, okay? Is I saw a comment of a woman, there was somebody that says, you know what? I was struggling, now I'm here, okay? And these are my wins. And the comment below was, you just saved me today because I felt like I couldn't do it. And I thought I was a failure because I wasn't seeing the results that I had hoped to see. But in reality, that's the human nature component to this healing process, right? Is that we want it to happen in a set amount of time. But when you come to us, we're going to try to meet you where you're at and allow for you to make progress, right? So sometimes that doesn't necessarily align with the human part of us that says we have to have it happen within this time, otherwise it just doesn't work, right? And so that's I want to emphasize, watch for those wins. Watch for the small, seemingly small wins. So an example that I like to talk about is just, oh my gosh, yeah, I could only sleep 2 hours consistently in a row. And yeah, now I'm sleeping four, right? And there's a tendency for the human in us to say, okay, I'm going to minimize that 2 hours of progress. But in reality, that's how healing takes place. Okay. So, like you said, oh, I've got these things, and then I'm still working on some of these gut things. Well, these other wins that you described likely needed to take place before even the gut begins to heal, right? So, healing is a process, it's not an event. And I commend you for being patient with that healing process and then also, sharing your story when it's not something that you probably do every single day. So we appreciate you and your effort and sharing, those wins. It's just healing is a series of peaks and valleys, but we always like to say, those peaks and valleys, if there's a valley, you have to remind yourself, I did not come this far to come this far, right? And I'm going to just keep taking action and do what I can do today, even though it may not be everything that they're asking me to do. I'm going to focus on what I can do. And then eventually that peak starts to come, and you're like, wow, I'm doing everything they're asking me to, a few consistent days. And those consistent days become longer and longer and longer. And then you prove to yourself, man, even when I'm in a valley, I've got the tools here. I've got the direction, the map, and I know exactly what I need to do to keep those peaks coming so I can keep climbing towards the top of the mountain, right?